Well, let's get some more on the situation on the ground in Afghanistan. I'm now joined by Brad Blitz. He's a professor at UCL here in the UK, and he's trying to get over 350 people out of Afghanistan. Those include some of his researchers. Thanks very much for being with us, Brad Blitz. I mean, the people that we're talking about, some of them are Hazara women who we know will be targeted by the Taliban. Others, former ministers in the previous government who've worked with you, researchers, activists, artists, journalists, all potentially under threat by the Taliban if the Taliban does not adhere to its promise of being as tolerant as it says it might be. I'd just like to start by asking you, have you heard from those 350 on the ground at the moment? Do you know if any of them have made it out?
Well, of those 350, 25 were rescued by Poland. One was rescued by Sweden and one was rescued by Italy. Overwhelmingly, they've been denied visas. They've not been able to get to the airport. They've not been able to get onto flights. And that is because the British government has not issued them with emails providing evacuation details and an offer of evacuation. So we have knocked on every possible door. We've knocked on the door of the British government, the American government, the French, the Germans, the Spanish, the Italians. We've knocked on the Bosnian and Turkish doors as well. And we're now speaking to the Mexicans. And the reason why they are still in Kabul now is because they have not been issued with visas, even though they're eligible for the Arab scheme, even though we have applied for them to join the Arab scheme.
Have any of them had rejections of their visas, or are you under the impression that they haven't yet been processed?
They haven't been processed. We just get form emails, we just get referrals to websites. We just get, I'm sorry, we couldn't help you. That is when we actually get through to someone. And yet, Ben Wallace has the names of our researchers. These names have been submitted through the Foreign Office, through the Home Office. The British government knows who they are. The British government has their mobile numbers and can reach out to them and can still get them onto planes, especially while they're still sitting on the tarmac.
So what you're saying is that under the ARAP scheme, the Relocations Assistance Policy scheme, the Home Office, Ben Wallace, as you say, the Home Office has these applications there. They are simply not processing them yet. Have you had confirmation from the Home Office that they've been received, that they're in the process of being looked at? OK.
We have had multiple emails from the Home Office, from the FCDO, from ministers as well. And what we keep getting is pushbacks. We keep being told, I'm sorry, or we're looking into it. And yet people are still waiting. We know that other countries have reached out to them. Poland issued 25 of our colleagues with evacuation letters and managed to get them out. The British have not done the same.
Yes, yeah. And meanwhile, of course, you know, calls by the Home Office, it sounds like, to tell you to wait, to wait, to wait. But how immediate is the threat to your colleagues, do you think?
These people are all at great risk. These are largely women. They're researchers who've been working as part of the Women, Peace and Security Programme. They were funded by the British government. They were funded through overseas development assistance. They have all been working as part of a UN agenda on women, peace and security, which is part of Britain's global agenda as well.
Obviously, without putting any of them at risk, can you tell me how they are staying safe, where they are now? Did any of them try to make it to the airport before? Were they in... I mean, we've seen people in sewage canals queuing up outside at the airport. The sort of loss of human dignity is almost unbearable. Were any of them caught up in that, or have they been staying safe at home?
No, that's absolutely right. So some who'd got invitations from other governments to go to the airport have gone over the last few days. And they have waited and waited. Some have been shot at. They've been pushed back. One tried 4 times with a baby, still couldn't get through. Another was evacuated or partially evacuated by Sweden, spent more than 18 hours on a bus circling Kabul, could not get to the airport. And the reason is that there needs to be a humanitarian corridor. The British, the Americans, the international forces, while they are still there, must ensure safe passage to the airport. And they can do so because they are still there. They still control the airspace.
I mean, it is unlikely that that is going to be able to be opened up, given the Defence Secretary saying that the evacuation effort from the UK is within hours of finishing. If that is the case, once those flights stop, what will those remaining that you're talking to, what will they seek to do? Will they try to make it home? Will they try to escape? What will the situation be like for them then?
My message to Ben Wallace is go back on your word, open the airport, get our people onto planes. You can do so. The planes are on the tarmac. You have people on the ground. You can continue the evacuation effort. You can do so while there's an international presence and while people still need to be evacuated.
These are people you've worked with over a number of years. As you say, there's also their families involved. How does it make you feel now to know that some of them, if Ben Wallace is to believe, will not make it out?
We are all desperate. Everyone is desperate. The people on the ground are desperate. We are desperate because we have been knocking on every possible door. We have done everything asked of us by the British government and other governments. We've applied, we've sought visas, and yet people cannot get out. These are people who just 6 weeks ago were conducting surveys as part of my team. These are people who have been funded by the British government, and as a result, academics based at British universities have established reputations, they've developed research. This is critical research as well to advance our foreign policy objectives and aims. It's part of a broader UN agenda, and yet they are being abandoned right now. We are
very briefly, I'm so sorry, just very briefly, because we are pretty much out of time, but I just want to ask you, for you, how have you been coping with what must be incredibly difficult conversations that you've been having over the last few days?
I have a wonderful group of colleagues who've been working with me, and collectively we've been reaching out to our colleagues on the ground. We've been supporting people through WhatsApp. We've been communicating messages that we're receiving back and forth from foreign governments, from soldiers on the ground, from people who are trying to help.
OK, thank you so much, Brad Blitz, Professor at UCL there, and I wish you the best of luck. You're watching Sky News Today. The live